We are going to end today with the second parak, with the second chelik, the second part of our book, and we're going to enter the section that deals with prophecy, which is a very, very interesting topic. How is prophecy possible? In chapter 8, there's two things I want to say, and then we'll move to the next section. So, he says that you have to understand that God's relationship to us really is dependent on us. We know that. And God works like either it is shining His light upon us or hiding His light upon us, from us. Okay? Either light on or light off. Okay? When God's light shines upon us, we have three things that happen. And they are, we have something called ribui, which is multiplication, or an increase. Zakut. Zakut is you get purer and purer. Vikar is getting, how does he translate the third topic? So he says like this, listen to this. Value. The influence of God's illumination results in such qualities as advantage, ribui, which I said increase, clarity or purity, and value. The concealment of the light brings about disadvantage, opaqueness, and worthlessness. Just the opposites. So when God's light shines in your life, what happens? Things are going to go up and up and up. And when God hides His light from you, what's going to happen? Why are those two happening? Why one time you have light and one time you have darkness?
It's up to you.
It's up to you. Or, if it's not up to you, it means you need to go through the darkness to reach to the level that you need to be to get the light. Right? Everything that happens is to get you to the next level. So sometimes, like somebody says, I have a hard time, I need help and motivation. Right? Somebody said that to me, Bernie, not you, but I'll tell you what I said to the person. So the person said to me, I really, Rabbi, I need help motivating myself. It's hard for me to wake up in the morning. So I said, there really is two types of motivations. There's positive motivation and negative motivation. Negative motivation is very easy. You don't wake up. You're out of here. And I stopped there and I said, what? We were walking down Gamla, that's what I told him. Like, what? No, I said, but that's the negative. I can give you positive, but that's the negative. Sometimes there is hastaras panim, that Hashem hides Himself from us in order to get us, to awaken us, shake you up a little. Because you're getting off the path. And so He sort of jolts you, wakes you up. That's the language that the Ramchal uses for sometimes God entering the hastar. Now, so everything that happens, you either get those three qualities or their opposites. Okay? Now, in human history, since the Torah tells us there were different stages, right? The first stage was what? Anybody know? We have 2,000 years of no Torah. Right? So we call that Shnei Alafim Tohu. And then we have giving of the Torah. Right? And then we have giving of the Torah, you have giving of the Torah with miracles and prophets. Then you have our period, which is what? Giving, we have the Torah, but we don't have prophets and we don't have miracles. And the fourth stage is what? Mashiach. Right, so 4 stages. First stage was no Torah. Second stage was Torah, miracles, and prophecy. Third stage, Torah, no miracles and prophecies. Fourth stage is the good life. Now, So he says, don't think that the human situation, the human condition, has been always static, was always the same. It depended on what was going on. Okay? So he says that when the period when there was, like we are now, he says, "Chasera haskala amitit shehi ruach hakodesh." What we're really missing is the ability to acquire knowledge through the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, through prophecy. We don't have that. Every type of knowledge that people have, they are getting it through hard work. They're not getting it coming in, message, and you get a telegram from Hashem saying, you had the wrong pshat in Tosfos. This is what it is. It's like this. Move on. You have to work on it. So, when you had the Beis HaMikdash, and you had miracles, you had all of these, and prophecy, it was something that was, very, very different from us. Okay? But he says the fourth stage is going to be even better. There are not going to be any ignorance, and the Spirit of God, right, the Ruach HaKodesh, is going to be affecting all human beings. And therefore, you would be sort of earning, eternal life every single second. What? Seems nice. But he says there are boundaries, right? In the way that God relates to us, there are boundaries. Their boundaries are dependent on place and time and other conditions. And some people receive more, some people receive less. And that is the end of chapter 8. Questions? Good. Yes?
When the Messiah comes, are there still going to be holidays and mitzvahs and all these things?
Yeah. The fast days are not going to be fast days. Right? For the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, you're not going to observe that because you're going to have a Beis HaMikdash. It's going to be like a big party. Chanukah and Purim are still going to be, Rosh Hashanah is still going to, Yom Kippur, not going to go away.
Why didn't we start off with Torah?
Why didn't we start off with Torah? It's a very, very good question. In reality, in the case of the Garden of Eden, you were beyond that. You didn't need that.
Right. So after you passed the first generation,
but remember, what happened was they kept sinning and making it worse and worse and worse. So then God said, "Okay, let's control, Alt, delete." Right?
So fine, and give the Torah then.
So he didn't need to. But then what was the point? The point was that you need to give a Torah to a people. Right? At the time of Noah, did you have a people yet? No. You just had one family. So you had to wait till you get 70 nations. The Ramchal said that there are really two, and I think you and I sort of went back and forth on this. There are at least two stages of human development. First development was called the root. Remember that? And the second was the development of the tree or branches, the branches. The first part of those 2,000 years was to allow humanity to actualize all potentiality.
Well, sure, they didn't actualize all of it because
they didn't actualize most of it, but it was a part of the plan of the Kadosh Baruch Hu to allow them to actualize those possibilities. Yet most people didn't. We see that Avraham Avinu did, right? So that the forefathers of the 70 nations all fell within, some sort of a spectrum of how much of those abilities, powers, moral virtues, qualities were actualized. From that point onward, it was sort of frozen. Here, you just work with what you got. That is your genetic makeup. Let's use that as a metaphor. That whatever it is in your genes, that is it. You can't add more. If your genes say that your IQ is going to be between, what's a good IQ? 120 to 140? Is that high?
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good? Okay. So if that's, you're not going to be able to have a kid that with an 80. And you're not going to be able to get somebody above 130. Because that is sort of the boundaries. Right? So chesed is, the mahalach of our people. Right? The Gemara says that the sons of Abraham are Rachmanim, Baishanim, and Gomlei Chasadim. So the Gemara says. So those are the moral qualities that we are genetically predisposed to be. So much so that the rabbis tell us that anybody who doesn't have these three qualities, maybe the person's not Jewish. Not so.
What are the three qualities?
I knew you were going to ask. So he said, "No, don't be sorry. It's good." But Bernie had cracked a smile, So, Rachmanim are people who are merciful. Baishanim were people who have this feeling of being ashamed. They get embarrassed. What? It's not humility. They don't want to be humiliated. They don't want to be embarrassed. Baishanim is somebody who is not, it's not anavim. That's a different term. It's somebody who doesn't want to be embarrassed. Somebody who is shy. And they do acts of loving kindness. They're kind to other people. They're not cruel.
So these are the three essential attributes of a Jew.
Yes, that's the Gemara in Brachot. It says those are the aspects that's what the Jewish people have. Yeah. Yes? I see the wheels are working.
I'm just thinking it's some dudes that I'm having for.
And they don't fit this.
So we didn't get the Torah because God needed to be 70 nations, and He didn't just start off the world with 70 nations because He wanted to let people try it on their own first or fail.
Or what this was in order to get to giving of the Torah, you had to go through all these stages. Right? And it wasn't a mistake, of waiting to give the Torah. Right? I mean, if Adam would have kept the first mitzvah, then it would have been as if he completed the whole Torah. But he didn't. So then he said, okay, do the 7 mitzvahs of Bnei Noach. Right? It was, the whole point is to show that you really can't live without the Torah. Right? There's no havamina to say that because he had 2 other options before. Once he gives the Torah, everybody realizes that we have to have the Torah in order to be saved. But if you gave the Torah first, people would say, you don't need it, you can get to it even without it. But since you know the story, then you know that no, you really can't without it. Yes?
God is above free will, and He understands what choices people make. Why did He go to any of the other nations like that?
I'm trying to see, in my mind, what you're saying seems to be a non sequitur. That is the first part, that there is free will. What does free will have anything to do with giving of the Torah to the other nations?
Because I could understand if God is above free will, that allows you to make your own choices. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But if it's something that kind of defines mankind overall, why would He waste the time giving it to people that you would accept it? Wouldn't just go straight to the people who will and go from there?
Well,
it doesn't kind of seem as the same sort of example as a typical example. Someone might argue about it.
no, you're not talking about free will. Your question really is divine knowledge.
It's kind of both. I mean,
It's not the.
People say yes or no.
Well, yes, and they said no. And they're not penalized for it. They weren't penalized for that. See, because the way that He asked the Jewish people, there was a penalty. If you said no, you would die right there and then. Whereas for the Gentiles, He would communicate that to one of their leaders, say, here's the Torah, and he himself would present it. Right? The leader would present it to the people and would say, do you guys, should we do this? And they're like, no, we don't need it. It's not really what we want. So it's okay, fine. I don't think we need to do it either. But he offered them because everybody should have a choice. It's a choice. It's not that the fact that God knows what they choose doesn't make it not a choice. Like if I know, let's say if I had a time travel machine and I know that you chose chicken for lunch, right? Because you have chicken or beef. And I know you chose chicken. But now going back to the time when they ask you, what would you like, chicken or beef? And you say chicken, does that mean you didn't really have a choice? Because you were going to pick chicken and...
Yeah. That's the difference. You didn't make him. So what? So
What?
in the particular case that you're giving, yes, he still has free will just because you know what he's going to do.
No.
However, if you had made him and he knew...
But I made him with an ability to choose.
But you made him with an ability to choose knowing what he's going to choose. So you made him in a certain way where he's going to choose a certain thing.
But he could choose otherwise.
But he can't because you made him in a way that he's going to choose this.
No, I made him in a way that he has a choice to choose whatever he wants.
It's a semantic argument. I mean, there's
No, never say that.
It's
Never. Do you know what the word semantic means?
that it's based on words. It's a wordplay.
It's not a wordplay. Semantics means that we're dealing with definitions of terms, right? It
Okay,
is.
fine. In that case, we
It's
are
not
definitions.
correct. So that is the whole argument that we're having. To say it's semantic, it means
So you're saying it's not. It doesn't dismiss the argument.
correct. I mean, when you say it's semantic, it means good. Yes, I agree with you. This is very important. How we understand the terms. So what you're saying is, since you created A, you know all of A's options. Therefore, A doesn't have an option to choose.
You do not know all of it. You don't necessarily know. It doesn't matter whether you know all of A's options. You know specifically which option he's going to take.
But that's the whole point. That God knows it, but not in time.
So he limits his own knowledge.
Now, it's not a question of limitations of knowledge. His knowledge is not time-bound. Our choices are time-bound. It's only an issue if there's time involved in divine knowledge. But from God's perspective, there is no future, present, or past.
Okay. I mean, it's so difficult for me to conceptualize
Correct.
what that is like. That.
Correct. But the easy way to understand it is that God created us as creatures with an ability to choose whatever we want. We have natural dispositions. For example, I don't like, salmon. But I could choose salmon if I wanted to. Sometimes I do, to make my wife happy. Or when I'm at a guest at someone's house and they offer, now this is going to be all over, like somebody invites, so you only ate my salmon because... I have to watch this stuff, Somebody actually watches these things. So, you can go against your will and say, no, I'm going to do it. Like, I like hot showers. Taking hot water, taking showers is amazing. But I could take a cold shower if I wanted to. It's just, just change it. That is, and God created me with the ability to choose. Since He gave me the ability to choose, that's how He's running the world. Now, when my will is getting in the way of God's ultimate plan, guess what? My will is dismissed. That's what the Ramchal said earlier. And we see that from Pharaoh. Because God has a plan, and if all humanity, we all decide we're going this way, and God wants us to go that way, He has ways to say, you know what? You're not doing it. What? We are until God decides that we're not.
We're no longer free. If we were, then we could do whatever we like without worrying about what somebody else
But
thinks.
no. The question is, where is that point? If the point is, I want to eat, I want to go left, and he says, you have to go right, that is, in every case, every decision, I don't have free will, then I would worry about it, that I'm not really free. You're not really free because there's lots of other constraints that don't allow you to do what you want. Like, you can't violate the laws of gravity. Does that mean you're not free? You're free within certain boundaries. That doesn't mean you don't have freedom. Freedom is, you live in a society, right? In Australia. Are you free in Australia? Yeah. Well, no, you have a speed limit? Then you're not really free. Because in Germany, on the other one, you don't have, so you're not really free. You would say, no, it's not everything's relative. Is that relative, what you just said?
I can't think of
that statement you certainly don't mean as relative. Because you're trying to apply it as a universal. You're saying everything is relative. So that you mean to tell me that that's universal.
Except the funny thing is, you can argue about that forever because language is relative in and of itself. So if I say
Language is relative.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Well, if you go to China and they don't speak English, is English relative or does English have the same meaning as if I understood it? Because if you're just speaking nonsense to them, it's as good as if you spoke something else.
No, but that's not what the term relative means. Relative means that this word means one thing here and something else there. When you have two different languages, but if we're using the same language, right? You speak Australian English and I speak American English, let's say. But we're still able to communicate because the word relative means the same thing to us. That is, when you use the word relative, I don't say, oh, no, it's not my grandmother. Like, no, I'm not talking about that relative. I'm talking about, right? There are definitions that we're using that we both know what we're doing. That's how we can have a conversation. I could tell you, no, you're wrong, and you're not saying, no, you didn't understand me right. You're arguing, no, I'm right because this is what I mean. And I say, yeah, but you can't really mean that. Because then you have a contradiction. You said everything is relative. You want to apply that as universal. Because if you don't, then not everything is relative. Think about it.
Everything but the statement.
See, there's also lots of semantics.
It's not semantics. I'm asking you about the idea. If you say everything is relative, so take your statement. Is that relative or not?
So if you were to say that it isn't, then does it really matter?
Yes.
Why?
What do you mean? Because if you say everything is relative, and you say, but I don't really mean it in a relative sense.
Right, so most things are relative. Does it really change much?
In what sense are they relative?
The sense of the relative is that they're all up for what people interpret. There's very few absolutes.
I don't know about that. I think that just because somebody gives a particular interpretation to a concept or an idea or a truth, it doesn't, and I have a different understanding, it could be that one of us is wrong. Relative means that none of us are wrong. You're right and I'm right. But it's possible that when that you believe something and I believe something, that one of us is really wrong. Relativism says nobody's wrong. We assume that we're both right. Why? But why should you assume that?
I think one of the problems with not assuming relativity in many cases is that you therefore are making, in my mind at least anyway, you're therefore making the assumption that we know. And to say something that we know is putting a stamp on saying, well, we don't need to know anymore because we know enough about A.
I don't know. That is sort of so that is on the boundary of skepticism. To say that since if I say that I know, it means that there's no more to learn. That's not true. It's not true. I could know. I know 1 + 1 is 2. But I might not know what the square root of 49 is. Actually, I happen to know what that is. Sorry, bad idea. It's like, but you have to give a good idea.
But within the concept of 1 + 1 = 2, that sounds like you're saying that you're 100% certain that 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
That's
And
not skepticism. That's just relativism versus.
It's not relative.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. That to me doesn't sound like being a skeptic versus someone who's confident.
I didn't say skeptic. I didn't use it. I said the concept of skepticism is we can't know the truth of anything. So, and this is what I said. You're reaching that boundary because you're saying is that since you can never be 100% know everything, then you really don't really know anything. And I don't think that necessarily you have to go that way. If I don't know 100%, I can know 5%. It's better than not knowing anything. 80% is better than 5%. 70% is better than 10%. That is, a skeptic says, look, we can't really know, so therefore the human mind can't know anything about these things. And so we just have to sort of leave it alone.
I think that skepticism is very often misunderstood. Because a lot of people, including myself, the reason why I'm largely skeptical of a lot of things, it's not because you shouldn't, bother or you should just kind of turn away and give up. It's because when people start making assumptions based on things they think they know 100%, and use that as fact to tell people how to run the world, that's when things start to get murky. If you're so
Well, my sense, usually skeptics.
Like somebody else who thinks that maybe this or that or that or that. That's why I think when a lot of skeptics become skeptics.
I think that skeptics a lot of times don't want to do the hard work, and they rather being a skeptic is a lot of fun, because all you do is you just doubt everything else, and you don't have to take a stand on anything. From an intellectual perspective, it's the easiest position to take, because whatever somebody says, you're like, no, prove it, and you try to disprove his proof that he knows what he's talking about. So then when the person says to you, well, so what do you think? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we can really know about this.
Yeah, but that's a lazy skeptic. I think you find there are a lot of people.
That's what the definition of skeptic means. Okay, look at the encyclopedia. Listen, there's an encyclopedia of philosophy online at Stanford University. It is very reputable, very reliable. So look up the definition of skepticism, and you and I can talk about, after you read it, you tell me where you think that is the wrong interpretation of skepticism. We'll see. But they'll give you, like, this is what the term means, this is how it functions in philosophy. Now, you might say, I'm not using it in a philosophical sense. Then I would tell you, okay, I don't really know what you're, Okay, let's enter the third part. The third part is talking about prophecy. What is prophecy?
Receiving a message from God.
Receiving a message from God. You agree with that, Bernie? Prophecy?
Kind of more to do with just like seeing the future.
Seeing the future. What do you think, Ben?
Maybe a combination of
Oh, sit in the fans. Take a side. You're probably right.
Well, it has
What?
to do with the future, and you're also receiving a message from God about the future.
The two actually don't have anything to do with one another. That is, Josh's point is what it is, and Bernie is giving you what the content is. Right? What? What's prophecy? You have an idea?
Not really significantly different to others.
Okay. The interesting thing is not only to understand what is prophecy, that is, what is the content of information, but really to try to figure out how does it work.
Just a question from what I said. Does prophecy have to come from God? So we said like Pharaoh's necromancers, they made prophecies that came to pass.
No, they made predictions.
Is prophecy synonymous with a prediction?
No.
If it comes to pass?
No, because this is where I would disagree with Bernie. I don't think that prophecy necessarily is future oriented.
Well, it could be, but let's say it's a
No,
statement.
but it doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to
I
be.
know it doesn't have to. I'm saying if something is a statement about the future, can you call that prophecy
No.
even if it's not from God?
No.
Does it have to be from God to be called
Yeah.
prophecy?
Yes.
What if it's going to come true 100%?
What?
I don't know. Let's say I don't know.
Let's say I have a Ouija board, and the Ouija board tells me that tomorrow it's going to be Monday, and it's going to rain in Tzfat.
No, but
And I say it's going to be Monday tomorrow, it's going to rain in Tzfat.
no.
So does that mean
that's
it's
not
prophetic?
prophecy.
Why not?
Because it's a very predictable. There's no way to.
Fine. So that Obama is going to have a wart on his left foot.
Yes, that would be prophecy.
So fine. That's prophecy. Even if it's not from God.
In my mind, everything is from God, so I wouldn't.
Everything?
Yes, literally everything.
Why?
So, because everything is God. So, to me, this distinction. I know it's my whatever, but
Okay.
but
Everything is God. Okay?
yes, we are within it. That is why not?
Okay.
And that's totally besides the point. So why wouldn't let's say you had something that you had no possibility of knowing, right? There's no way you could know what is going to be on somebody's left foot.
What about guessing the lottery
But
numbers?
you're not going to be. Again, it's not guessing. Okay, fine. The lottery numbers.
Yeah, you go. These 6 numbers. I'm going to win $10 million.
And then they.
And then what do?
Okay, I would say yes. That's a prophecy.
Yeah. What about luck?
Well, it can't be luck
Why not?
because your probability of guessing those numbers is infinitesimally small.
But it's possible. But it's even 1 out of what? 10 billion? I did it. I got it.
Would you agree that it's unlikely?
It's not a question of unlikely. The question is if it's chance. And if the chance means that it worked,
Okay,
it worked.
if you
People win the lottery all the time. It's not possible.
on,
Every
no,
week
that's-
somebody wins.
So perhaps you could say
Yeah,
that
but the same
prophecy
person
is
never
the
wins.
extension of probability where events are
That's
so
ridiculous.
improbable that you would render them completely.
No, that's why I would say that prophecy is a message from God or content information about God. It doesn't have to be future oriented.
If I
It could be just a universal truth.
If I could win the lottery 7 times in a row, you would still say I'm getting lucky.
Yeah,
8 times in a row, I'm getting lucky.
100 times in a row.
Probability is not really bound by how many times.
Yeah. So who says?
No, it makes
In
sense.
every time, you're one out of 10 million every single time.
Yeah, but that's not luck.
Why not? What is it? You're rigged.
I mean,
You rigged
I
the
know.
machine.
I don't know. I'm getting something, a reading, or I don't know.
Okay.
Let's say I could.
But I wouldn't say it's prophecy unless I know that God spoke to you and told you these numbers. And if you say no, does God speak to you? No. How do you know these numbers? I just know them.
Okay, so all you're saying is that the definition of prophecy is it's something that comes. It's information coming from God.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not just the ability to
Predict the future.
not even predict, but just to know the future.
Correct.
It's not the ability to know the future.
Correct.
It is the ability to receive direct messages from God.
Correct. That's what a prophet is.
Got it.
And many times prophecies that God gave did not come true. What do I mean by that? Jeremiah the prophet tells us that when God gives a prophecy that something bad is going to happen, and it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that God was wrong. It means that people could always do tshuva. Right? Since people can repent, God, he says, if you don't, and we see that from the story of Jonah. Right? He says to Jonah, go tell them that the city is going to be destroyed in 40 days. So he goes over there, the city is going to be destroyed in 40 days. They all do tshuva, and the city is not destroyed. Does that mean that Jonah was a false prophet? No. That's how prophecy works. God is coming and says, I want you to change your ways, or I will destroy you. People change their ways, he doesn't destroy you. But when God promises something good, then that has to happen. That's how Jeremiah, the Navi, the prophet, tells us of how do we know what something is true or false. Okay? Okay. Let's talk about the soul. We are made up of 2 parts. Right? One part, body, and the other part, soul. Right? Body and soul. Soul is in the body, right?
It's not a physical.
It's what?
It's not a physical thing, though.
The goof, the body is not a physical
No,
thing?
the nefesh.
The nefesh.
So,
But-
why do you
yes?
say in? Because in describes physical things.
Correct.
This isn't a word that we can relate to.
But we say that other souls are out of the body.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
So when-
what?
Like your ruach is like out of your body.
This is different parts of the nefesh.
No,
It's different.
levels.
Correct. But so part of it is in and part of it is out.
But what do you mean when you say parts in and parts out? Because it's not a physical thing anyway.
So how do you understand it?
So I don't know how when you use the word in to describe a soul,
Yeah.
soul's in the body. I only know in the physical sense, like water's in the cup. How are you using the word in?
As read Aristotle, I think it's the first book on metaphysics, he talks about substrate. That certain substrates have certain qualities in them. Are they really in them? Not. That is the matter and form. You have matter and form, right? The form is in the matter. Right? So in what sense is it in the matter? Right? So you have the tree, right? So you have the material component of the tree, yet that's never going to give you a tree. It's the form that is going to produce the tree. So is the form in the tree? Yes, but is the form physical? No. So where is it? It's in the tree. But really, is it? Is it? Yeah, leave me alone. Bernie's got a headache. No, you with me? So in the same way, the idea is really that the nefesh is the form of the body.
Right, so you take the same body parts and smush them, you wouldn't call the body.
Correct. Right? When you have a corpse, What's the difference between a live person and a corpse? What's the difference? Well, what's the difference? Why this one isn't moving and the other one is? Do they have a heart? They have a heart. Both have hearts. They have eyes, both eyes. Ears, everything is there. Everything is right there. Everything is there. Why isn't this working and the other one is? What? And what? No, nothing is compromised. You can put in all the electrolytes. You can hook it up to the machine and the heart will start beating. You can even get electrical activity in the brain. But no, that is, I'm saying you can put it back in.
That whatever that is, that's not a corpse. That person's still alive.
No.
Its heart's not beating.
Yeah.
It's in the casket. You're gonna walk up to it and say, "Excuse me, I
No,
don't
but
think you're
that's
actually
saying
alive."
if you can take something from that corpse and bring it back to life, then they're not really dead.
Like an organ transplant.
If someone's really, really dead, it's because one or more systems have been compromised to the point that they can no longer function.
I guess they're telling me that the time is for mincha.